Struggling to hear can be incredibly frustrating, but there are medical advances that are helping a lot of people.
One of the potential options is something called a cochlear implant, but how do you know it's actually right for you or your loved one? Well, Dr. Greg Swingle, audiologist and owner of Arizona Hearing Specialists, joins us now with some answers. Pleasure to have you here, Doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. So this really is life-changing technology. Tell us how some of your patients have reacted when they have received the cochlear implant and how it's changed their life.
Well, a cochlear implant really can create audibility in a way that is amazing for people who have severe hearing loss. There are times where people have gone a very long time without hearing certain sounds. In fact, it cracked me up whenever you were talking about the alligator segment, because you were talking about them walking across and you hear the little thuds. Well, imagine if you have a hearing loss. You don't hear those things around you as much, and so more importantly, you end up not hearing speech clearly either, and that is how we connect to people. So it's extremely important to be able to connect with people and stay social and active, and when you can't understand the conversation, you start to notice, I'm not able to engage in this conversation. I don't really want to go to that restaurant anymore. I don't want to hang out with these people anymore. And it's not because you don't like them or don't want to, it's because you physically can't do it. You can't follow.
And then you start distancing yourself from people, and that just affects your entire life. So a lot of us are familiar, of course, with hearing aids, but not so much with a cochlear implant. How are they different?
So a cochlear implant is essentially a two-part system. You have the part that goes in the inner ear. You can see on the diagram there, you've got the auditory system. The outer and middle ears really route the sound waves towards the cochlea, or the inner ear, which is that snail-like structure you see there. That has thousands of cells that transform those sound waves into nerve impulses for the brain. So if the inner ear is not transforming those sound waves as well as it should, then you have hearing loss. So unfortunately, there are times when a hearing aid, which routes the sound, it amplifies and manipulates the sound, and there's lots of great technologies as far as hearing aids are concerned. But as you can see, there's a variety of different ways that a hearing aid can route the sound through the outer and middle ear into going through the cochlea, or the inner ear. So all the sound that the hearing aid provides, no matter how good it is, still gets routed through that inner ear. And if the inner ear is impaired enough, the user just can't make good use of that information because the cells are not there for them. So a cochlear implant essentially bypasses that mechanism, and we're saying, okay, we're going to route the sound differently. So you still have something on the outside, but you have this, think of it kind of like a transmitter on the outside part of the head, obviously, and then it's communicating with, think of it kind of like a receiver on the inside part of the head. That's the implanted portion. And then that implanted portion sends electrical impulses to the auditory nerve. So the cochlear implant system really has both parts. The external component, which is the piece you see on the left, that's the processor. It functions much like a hearing aid, but instead of routing all the signal through the inner ear, we're saying, well, that's not doing what it should, so we're going to essentially try to replace what that inner ear is doing, or the cochlea is doing, with the piece that you see on the left. There's the electrode array that goes into the inner ear and stimulates the auditory nerve directly.
Well, first of all, technology is amazing.
Really
the fact that you could rattle all that off so quickly is amazing too. You know your stuff, obviously, and so if someone is apprehensive about it, because I imagine they can have some concerns or some questions, what would you tell them to say, you know, this really is the right solution for you?
Well, we do a pretty comprehensive cochlear implant evaluation, and that is an important part of the process because cochlear implants are different than hearing aids. You're hearing electronically as opposed to the traditional way of acoustic hearing. So what I usually tell people is, if you cannot hear clearly, even when you're wearing a very good hearing aid, then you can't function the way you would like to function. And if you want to get to a spot where you can do the things that you love, then a cochlear implant might be right for you. There is quite a process to the cochlear implant, the whole procedure, but also think of it kind of like auditory rehab. You kind of have to go through exercises to retrain your brain because you're listening to it, you're listening to the world around you in a different way. So the person needs to be motivated and committed to the whole process, but also making sure that you're working with professionals that know what they're doing and also kind of help guide you and support you through the whole time.
Because you need to be patient through this. It's not just, you know, day one you're going to hear better, it's just a process over weeks, maybe months?
Oh, months, sometimes even a year or more.
Okay.
It really takes some time to not only acclimate or get used to it, the user has to kind of be patient for that part, but also we need to get the settings correct, and being able to bring them back for follow-ups, and we do a variety of different tests to try to make sure that the processor or the external component is programmed correctly, because it's a sophisticated device, and there's a lot we can do with it, but making sure that it's translating into benefit for the patient, that's a very personal journey that everybody has to go through.
Just think of that journey and think of the end goal, right? You want to live a happy, healthy life, and hearing is so essential that that's one of the first places you should start. So thanks so much for all this great info.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Doctor. If you would like to schedule a hearing evaluation or a consultation, you can call 520-600-3277 or visit ArizonaHearing.com.